There we go.
Great. So continuing on the conversation about whether or not how we structure a division or a director, we were talking about. Senator Hooker.
Well, I'm just, getting a little hung up. I think vision thing, as Senator Perchlik said, the secretary envisions divisions as a number of people. I think 20,
Yeah.
30, whatever. Maybe it's a function of calling it something different to show that perhaps there's more than one position that will be needed. But it sounded as if Ms. Myers was talking about as long as there's someone um, in charge overseeing literacy that has a connection to the field, then
Yeah.
that would be important.
Jim, did you want to weigh in on this?
Yeah, I was going to mention you could create a director position,
Yeah.
as we're talking about, and have the council make recommendations as to what staffing needs they think the agency needs to support that position.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And I think Senator Hooker, Senator Persick may have even said that at one point. But yeah, I think that sounds like a great way to move, kind of put that in their assignments. We have them doing a number of different things, and for them to consider that seems to make sense to me. What do you all think? Okay, Senator Persick?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Because I think if we try to say a division, it just means different things for different parts.
Yeah.
There's a clear definition of what a division is. It's just how they might divide up their own.
You're in state government, Senator. Do you work within a division or no?
We do.
You do. How many? Is it a large group of people?
4.
No, 4. Interesting. Okay.
So it's just it just kind of divides it up by kind of like what kind of stuff they work on. So you could have a one-person division if you want.
Right.
I think it's a definition or a designation without any meaning precisely. So
yeah.
we want to say that they want to have staff towards this, whether they call it division or something else, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
And I think having the advisory group weigh in on that is fine, but we don't want them to wait to hire the person. We want them to hire the person right away and then work with the advisory group to find or see if there's additional people they need to hire.
Yeah, I agree. Jim, is that clear?
That is clear.
Great.
Yeah.
Senator Campion, since you're not online, can I weigh in for a second?
We are online, but you can also weigh in.
Oh, I didn't think you were back on YouTube. Yeah, I'm sorry. I just was going to say the other thing you could do is you could have a person who's not a division director, but still a director. The AOE has several of those positions. So it could be put underneath educator quality or one of their other divisions. Underneath that, you can have a person that's director of literacy or whatever you chose to call it.
Yeah. Senator Persick?
If we wanted to raise the profile of the position, we could say a director that, is under that speaks directly to the secretary or to a commissioner. So we just say this is a high level position. It's director of statewide literacy program that, answers to the secretary.
I like that a lot. Director of statewide literacy programs. Senator Lyons.
Why don't we just put it in the secretary's office? I mean, so what we've done with the with the prevention director of prevention and also a director of trauma informed services is put it into the secretary of AHS's office. And then beyond that, the other thing that we could think about is defining the credentials that the individual must demonstrate or have somehow define the expertise, whether it's a master's degree in literacy or whatever, or experience equivalent to.
Yeah, that's something we might talk a little bit more about tomorrow. I think it's a good point once we see a new draft, see if there might be something there where we kind of play with the language. And I do like the director piece reporting to the secretary. I think that really does elevate the position. I think you both bring up good points. Okay, anything else on this before we move on? I'll just tee this up a little bit. So we are, let me get my, hold on. We're looking at S32, an act relating to school wellness and feminine hygiene products. We have a slightly revised draft in front of us that I'd like Mr. Desmarais to take us through. And then we will hear from witnesses. This is a bill that was put forward by Senator Lyons and others. We've already been taken through it once. My hope is, and we'll see if this works, is to create a miscellaneous education bill that would include this and the library study, as well as possibly multicultural liaisons, and ship that. That is what I've been in conversations with the Pro Tem's office about, and that would also, I think, work for us going forward, so that we would likely get something back that we could even add more to. So I'm not seeing any questions. Mr. Desmarais, would you mind bringing us through S32 again, with that, highlighting that the couple of changes that we heard from constituents on?
Sure. Jean, can I share the screen? Thank you. Okay. All right. Can people see this? Oh, too big.
Even
Yep.
better.
Yep. Okay.
Perfect.
So, for the record, Jim Desmarais going through this council, going through draft 1.1 of your amendment to S32. The very few changes here, I did a strike all because this might be moving, as the chair said, to the miscellaneous bill. So it'll all be here when we move it, or if you move it. We've been through this before, so I won't go through this language again. I will remind you, though, that the wellness program definition is being expanded broadly. Used to be just for fitness and nutrition. Now it's for comprehensive health education. So a much broader concept here, and that definition will be used to update the school wellness policy. So just to remind the community what's going on in these first two sections. The changes, though, came here. So now it says in
Sorry, Jim,
intends to ensure that all students
Jim, you're a little in and out for me. I don't know if that's
Oh.
true for everybody. Yep, looks like it's true for everybody. So if you could.
people hear me now?
Yep, much better.
Huh. Okay. So we've got this language change from female students to all students attending. I believe that's intended to pick up transgender students. And then in B, we have just really the addition of where the products have to be located. So still it's in a majority of gender neutral bathrooms, but now also in the school nurse's office. And those were the only changes.
And Jim, would you just take us through again, just the high overview of what, so everyone knows what we are trying to do with the bill overall?
Yeah, there's two things really. One is to is running the wellness policy. So one is to update the wellness policy in a much broader way. So comprehensive health means, it's a big definition. I read it to you last time, but it includes like personal health, includes like information on especially transmitted diseases, environmental factors and health. There's a very broad definition. So rather than focusing just on fitness and nutrition, they'll focus on a much broader definition. And that will therefore translate into, when they update that policy, it will include a much broader framework than before. Also changes here in terms of the advisory council shall include 3 members with expertise in health services, health education, or health policy. What's the change? They have to meet not less than twice a year. I understand that the wellness, the advisory group here has not been very active, so that's why this is language here. And then this is taken out here in terms of giving information about height and weight. I believe there are other means of doing that than this. And then here's where you update the wellness policy with a broader definition. And then here we go into the menstrual hygiene products. So those are the only 2 areas that are really covered in this bill.
Senator Lyons, any comments from you in particular right now as it relates to the bill?
No, I think the wellness section of the bill was something that this education committee worked on last year or last session. And as I'm looking at it and then thinking about where we are right now with kids, this is an open question. Is there anything that we should be saying about social and emotional or wellness in addition to what is there in the definition? And I kind of leave that open for people like Jay Nichols, who might have something to offer on that. Just thinking that, we usually think of sports and fitness and nutrition and the 4 food groups or whatever else, and that's really the wellness. But it could be other things. So it could be, I personally like the idea of yoga or something like that. But how to put in the concept of mental health or emotional wellness, is it in there? I don't know.
Emery?
Well, I was just going to remind the committee as to what the definition of comprehensive
That's it.
health education means. So it has 11 components to it.
Oh.
It begins with body structure and function, environmental health, pollution, public health, safety, including first aid, etc. Disease like HIV, infection, and sexually transmitted diseases, family health and mental health, including various instruction methods, personal health habits, including dental health, consumer health, including health careers, health costs, human growth and development, including physical, emotional, and social elements, drugs, including alcohol, caffeine, nicotine, nutrition, and sexual abuse.
Sounds pretty comprehensive. What
Great.
else can we put in there?
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. All right.
So,
Please, Senator Hooker.
for Jim, as long as nutrition is mentioned in comprehensive, do we need fitness and nutrition? Do you want to highlight fitness and nutrition in the bill itself? Or does comprehensive take care of that and negate the need for it?
It might. Let me go back through and I'll go through that definition and see whether we have to mention that separately or not. Yep.
Great. Any other questions, committee questions for Mr. Desmarais or Senator Lyons before we hear from our witnesses? Okay, very good then. Sue Siglowski, thanks for joining us. Great to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to testify on S32. I am here today for the VSBA, but also for the VSA and the VPA. Jeff Francis was not able to join us, but I know that Jay Nichols is in the room from the VPA, so I'm
Okay.
sure he'll be able to also answer any questions that you have. We submitted written testimony as a collaborative effort, and that is on your website. I don't think I need to necessarily pull it up. I'll just summarize it here. The first area of the bill that we covered was updating the school wellness program definition and model policy. Section 1 of S32 adds comprehensive health education as defined in 16 VSA section 131 to the definition of wellness program. It also specifies that the Advisory Council on Wellness and Comprehensive Health must include at least 3 members with expertise in health services, health education, or health policy, and meet not less than twice per year. Section 2 of the bill.
I'm sorry, Ms. Siglowski, are you taking us through the bill or are you giving us recommendations?
I just had summarized the bill, but I can just tell you what our recommendation is.
Yeah, I would say just what your recommendations are at this point.
Okay. Our associations support the changes in sections 1 and 2 that are meant to update the definition of wellness program and model wellness program policy. And would just note that currently Vermont's model wellness policy establishes goals for nutrition promotion and education, nutrition guidelines, and physical activity and other school-based activities that are designed to promote student wellness. And under this bill, the goals are expanded to include all of the items that Mr. Demaray just listed when he talked about the expansion. On the menstrual hygiene products section of the bill, which is section 3, our associations support the purpose of section 3, which is to ensure that female students attending a public school or an approved independent school have access to menstrual hygiene products at no cost and without the embarrassment of having to request them. We note that the bill requires school districts to bear the cost of supplying menstrual hygiene products, which does make it an unfunded mandate, and that this cost is unknown. Additionally, we assume that storage devices or dispensers would be required so that there's a way to store the products in a sanitary manner, and that could possibly add to the cost. It's also important to consider that the regular use of school facilities by community groups for meetings and events, which could possibly impact the level of supplies that schools will need to have on hand. And I would just conclude by saying that, or reminding the committee that unfunded mandates in this bill and other bills currently under consideration in the General Assembly are incremental increases, which may not seem significant in isolation when you're looking at just one bill, but when they can add up to significant impacts on local school district budgets and ultimately the education fund. And Jay and I are here to answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Senator Lyons.
No, the question is, have you looked at sort of what the potential cost might be for some of this, or thought about possible charitable donations that might be available? I mean, I would think first about doing some kind of fiscal note on it, just to understand what the burden is, because I don't like unfunded mandates any more than you do, and it's kind of weighing the kids who would have access to these products versus the costs. But I mean, have you done any sort of analysis on that at all?
We have
No.
not done an analysis on that, but I think possibly last year JFO may have done something for the Senate Education Committee, because this was considered last year as well.
Yeah, that's
right.
exactly what I was going to say. I testified on this last year, and there was a similar bill in the House that I testified on several times. Had the condoms piece in it and other things, and I'm almost sure that JFO did something on that particular item.
Senator Pershik, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, we definitely got a fiscal note. I don't know if they took in all the considerations that was just mentioned, but we did get a fiscal note on the estimated cost.
Okay.
And
I'll
Chair,
let-
we should also just share with you that many schools already do this.
Great.
Oh,
We don't
that's
have a
good to know.
percentage, but there's a lot of them that already are in compliance with this,
yeah.
the
Great.
intention of the bill.
Great. Well,
Do you have, do you have any sense of how many schools that is, or how many there are, or?
The vast majority of high schools
Okay.
already provide for this. Now, they may not have them in over 50% of the bathrooms. I don't know that, but I know that high schools give them out all the time for free. And I know a lot of middle schools do as well.
Good, thanks.
terrific. We do know that Senate Finance, I believe, passed out a bill this afternoon that would make them tax-free, which is a bit of savings.
I'll save some money.
Save some money. So,
Schools.
any other questions? Okay, thank you both. Appreciate you being here, and we'll get the fiscal note. Mr. Fannin.
Thank you and welcome. Thank you for having me back on S32. My comments are even shorter than Sue's, and which are we support S32, frankly, and in the meat of the bill at Section 3. This was an issue last year in the Senate Education Committee. My board took it up at a board meeting sometime in the spring, I believe before COVID. Yeah, I know before COVID, because we were all together. And they 110% support this. This is already happening, right? As Jay noted, in many schools, but not in every school. And so that's the issue, right? It's where it's not happening that that it needs to be happening. Otherwise, people are doing it already. My members, whether support staff or teachers, they're coming to school with these products themselves, and so they're paying for it out of their own pocket because it is needed. And also, what was discussed with my board was it's earlier and earlier when girls reach puberty in this regard. So it's got to, it's 5th grade. I heard even stories of younger, but I think that's a fair line to draw. And we support the bill as drafted. So,
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fannin, and thanks for spending so much time with us today. Any questions for Mr. Fannin? Ms. Casey.
Hi, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being with us. I don't know if we've had you in yet this year, so if you don't mind just introducing yourself, your name, and the organization you're representing for the record.
Yes, my name is Kara Casey, and I work for the Vermont Network Against Domestic and Sexual Violence. Just for a little background, the Vermont Network is Vermont's federally recognized domestic and sexual violence coalition. We represent 15 independent nonprofit member organizations which provide advocacy and support services to victims of domestic and sexual violence. Together, these organizations provide 24-hour hotline access, emergency shelter, youth and children's advocacy, and prevention education in schools, serving every community in Vermont. And we are in full support of S32, and specifically the piece around the menstrual product access in schools. I reached out because we are a member of a new and growing coalition, the Menstrual Equity Coalition, in support of increasing access to menstrual products in Vermont. The Vermont Network's vision is a world where all people can thrive, and my specific focus is on economic justice. We believe access to menstrual products is an economic and a gender justice issue. A recent study showed that 1 in 5 teens struggle to afford and purchase menstrual supplies. This lack of access in schools creates a strain on a young person's education and has potential health implications. 1 in 4 teens have missed class due to lack of access, and 61% have worn a tampon or pad for more than 4 hours because they did not have enough access to period products. So that puts them at risk for infection and, such as toxic shock syndrome. And we know that over 99% of households experiencing domestic violence also experience financial abuse. And this can include withholding income to buy necessary household products or withholding the products themselves. And this can affect a young person's access to these products and contribute to what is called period poverty. So beyond the economics, there is a lot of stigma associated with menstruation. Providing menstrual products that are free and easily accessible in schools helps to prevent the embarrassment that many youth who menstruate experience when they're unexpectedly in need of a pad or a tampon. And by stocking these products in bathrooms that are gender neutral and ones that are designed for females, you would be helping to end that stigma and showing that they're just as much as a necessity as other products that are stocked in those bathrooms, such as toilet paper and hand soap. So in conclusion, we would urge you to support this bill, and youth rely on supportive and askable adults in their lives to help them navigate issues around healthy sexual development. And we feel like this bill is one way that schools can support their students to do that. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Casey. That was great testimony. Important to hear. Thank you. And Ms. Casey, have you submitted that?
I have not, but I can.
Would you be so kind as to do that so we have it for the record?
Sure.
Questions for Ms. Casey? Terrific. Okay, thank you so much for being with us. Please feel free to stay if you have the time, but also recognize that you might need to drop off. Mr. Secretary.
Good afternoon. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you. Thanks for being with us again.
No, thanks. I apologize for being late.
No problem at all.
Dan French, Secretary of Education. The version, I'm looking at Senate Bill 32 online. I'm not sure if that's the most current version, but
Draft 1.1?
yes, that's what I have.
That's
Yep.
it.
And we and I personally, but we as an agency very strongly support this legislation. I think it's really important to situate this in the context of the broader wellness work, and it's perhaps similar to our perspective on literacy. It's something that just needs to be reinvigorated to a certain extent. So we appreciate the opportunity to think of this strategically. The section on the wellness policy, I just was just going to call out. Let's see if I can get to the section. Section 2. The history on the wellness policy was complex. The last time this became a major initiative, it was, if my memory serves me correctly, it was introduced as like two separate initiatives, one from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, essentially from a student nutrition perspective, and then there was also the sort of the educational wellness. So districts were left to a certain extent to reconcile two model policies from competing state governments. So I think if my memory serves me correctly, there is a requirement currently that all school districts have a wellness policy. In my experience, it's sort of one of those issues that, again, could be leveraged more broadly. So I think this legislation will reinvigorate an examination of how to use school board policy to address more broadly the issues of student wellness, to include the hygiene issue, the feminine hygiene product issue. So I think it's a good approach, and one that we strongly support.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Any questions for Secretary French? Secretary, thanks for being with us so much today. We really appreciate it.
Again, sorry for being late. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Mr. Moore from the Independent School Association. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Senator Campion, and thank you, committee, for inviting me in. I'm here to support my colleagues from the VSBA, the VSA, the VPA, and the Vermont NEA with a testimony. The section 3 of the bill is non-controversial amongst the independent schools community. We support it entirely. So I'm just pleased to add my voice to the folks from the public schools side.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moore. Questions for Mr. Moore? Okay, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, Senator Hooker.
Mr. Moore, are your schools already doing this, engaging in this practice? Are they?
I am aware that some are, Senator, but I don't have numbers on how many are and are not.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Moore? All right, well, thank you for being with us. Appreciate it. Thank you all. So committee, looks like tomorrow we will return to a new draft of literacy. We'll also plan to include this bill with the bill on the libraries and the bill. We might hear some testimony tomorrow afternoon. I'm still working with Senator Rahm on multicultural liaisons. Package that up together and work on that a little bit tomorrow and a little bit on Friday. Let's see. And we will also need to work to get something ready to go, possibly on Friday or soon when we get back on after school. As it looks like things might be moving along in that direction. So we might have to just get some language, some agreement around some language, how those funds would be directed. Any questions before I pass it back to Mr. Desmarais? Because I did, thanks to Jeannie, did ask him to come in and just review the changes that he made from yesterday's discussion on S16, the school discipline bill. But before we do that, does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns, compliments? Yes, Senator Persley, please.
I wanted to compliment Senator Lyons. She's done a good job.
Wait, I'm sorry. Compliment her on what?
Yeah, just for being Senator Lyons. You know?
This is not fair. This
I'm
is totally unfair.
I'm working on a draft bill. I don't know what we're going to name for Senator Lyons in this state, but it's got to be something. And
yeah, right.
It's bigger than a bridge. It's got to be something. I'm with you on that.
But now that I've done that, tomorrow we have the joint session, so we're still going to meet, but we're not going to vote on anything tomorrow, I'm assuming. But Friday you are expecting a vote.
I would hope that by Friday we would be able to vote on a couple of things.
Okay.
Does that work for you, Senator Perchlik?
I was just preparing as the clerk. I want to get,
Oh yeah. No, I just want to also make sure because sometimes people schedules. I know Senator Terenzini is doing this some stuff right now, and I told him that I would keep things open for him. Senator Chittenden.
I was going to ask. I'm getting a lot of emails about H81, and I thought I recall you saying we might be taking that up this week. Is that on the docket for after town meeting break?
No, that's on the docket for Friday to take up to have a bill introduction and to have Mr. Desmarais take us through that so we can at least get started on that so I can get where everybody else is at. This is something that the Senate voted on last year. And I'm hoping to do that as soon as we vote out a couple of things. So, yeah.
New guy question. So the likelihood of us voting on it on Friday is not likely, right?
On H81? No, but upon our return, depending on what the committee wants to do, I would think soon thereafter, and that we would try to move something like that. It also has to have a stop in appropriations So just need to make sure people have enough time. Senator Lyons.
I want to compliment the chair of the committee for his good work. I'm lashing back and out.
Find something to name for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, forget it. Okay. All right. Anything else before Mr. Desmarais just brings us through again? S16. I mean, what I'm feeling is I'd like to be able to move a couple things before town meeting, just so it doesn't all queue up for when we get back. But it does feel good that we do have a little bit of a cushion there. But I also know H81 will take time. I'm eager to hear what the pro tem wants to do on the waiting study and other things will be coming our way, one of which will be coming from Senate Agriculture, which is their work on school lunches. And we just want to make sure that we give that. I have a feeling it'll be in pretty good shape, but Senator Lyons and I may want to, since we had the opportunity to attach something to an ag bill, we may want to just work together and do a few things. Mr. Desmarais, thanks for sticking with us. Jim, has your daughter arrived? Everything's good? She's in London?
She's in London, yes. Thanks for asking. Yeah.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Good. All right.
So let me share the screen again and pull this up for you. We're doing what? 16, yeah. Okay. 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 Can people see that?
Yes. Let me get my copy.
Yep, okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. I'm just going to go through the changes here. So first of all, we changed the name of the task force to Task Force on School Exclusionary Discipline Reform. And then we had said include balanced representation of public and approved. Now we're saying representation. And then we'll come on to this, the prohibition on expulsion for students who are under 8 years of age. This is in the duties of the task force. And one of the duties is to recommend additional or more uniform in-school services that should be available too. Then I just broke this out to focus a little bit on what do you do when you can't exclude or expel these students, and then what about all of the students? So that just highlights for the task force we need to focus on this as a separate item, if you will.
Jim, I'm sorry, that's on what page, that last bit?
That is on page, we're on page number, what is that? That will be on page 5.
Page 5. Okay, thank you.
At the bottom. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, yep. And then we took out, you had in here before a subdivision that dealt with coming up with definitions around data collection and whatnot. And that was taken out from your last meeting. So that's been deleted. We did add here in terms of looking at data that the task force is to analyze the available data and data collection processes. So that's been added in. And then we recommend changes to the types of data collected and the data collection processes regarding suspensions and expulsions as necessary for the collection of all appropriate data related to school discipline. That's new. So that was it there. The appropriation of $15,000 is for per diem and reimbursement. You have 20 members. It's a big group. But also this appropriation is supposed to deal with any other expenses incurred by the task force. And I don't know what that is. So I'm not sure how to deal with the appropriation. So
Jim, if I may, and I don't know if I copied you on this, and I apologize if I didn't. I reached out to Steve Klein last evening, asking that they provide us with a fiscal note. I think what you've done there is terrific, because they said, their words to me were, you can vote it out. It's really going to be approach that will ask, they'll direct the fiscal note to approach. But I think what you've put it there is a great spot to start.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Then we go just a couple cross references here. These are very minor changes. And so that is the old language that we've been through before. Now we've got the new language coming in from Senator Romspell. So section 6 says it's amending current statute, which is a statute on suspension and expulsion. And now it says, notwithstanding anything to the contrary in this chapter, a student enrolled in a public school who is under 8 years of age shall not be expelled from the school, except in the case where the student poses a threat of danger to others in the school.
Should that say to, I remember looking at this last night, should it say to themselves or others? I thought Senator Lyons' language.
Yeah, no, but I said that, but you don't want to send the kid home
Interesting.
if he has, suicidal thoughts or, self-destructive thoughts. So I think that probably makes a lot of sense the way it is.
Senator Perschlick, do you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, well, I wondered about that too at first, but then I thought, well, aren't we leaving it up? Shouldn't we leave it up to the school? Because it's not saying that these kids have to be expelled. We're just saying that they could be expelled, but the school would decide if they pose a threat to him or herself or others in the school. But hopefully they wouldn't just automatically say, oh, there's a chance, so we're going to kick him out of school. But maybe there's a reason that having them not be at the school is helpful for the student. And maybe that's called something else, not an expulsion or something, it's a mental health day or something else. I guess I'm okay with it, but I just wanted to make sure that when we say except in the case of the threat to danger, that's not saying such a student has to be expelled, right?
Well, also remember that this does not prevent a school from an out of school suspension for a student. So if a student is harmful to him or herself, the school can still suspend that student in school or out of school. I can't see why you'd be expelling a student for being a danger to him or herself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. So
Senator Lyons' point.
Yeah. I mean, if somebody is threatening other kids, then
one thing.
That's one thing. If the child is threatening himself, then it would be a different. It wouldn't be it wouldn't be a situation to expel. It would be maybe not even suspension, but rather some kind of identification of support services. Probably in both cases, but I think the word expel probably takes care of it for me. I think the way it is fine.
Yeah, I'm inclined to support the way it is as well. I'm just looking for others. Senator Perschlick, you're okay? Senator Hooker, Senator Chittenden, you're okay? Or your question, go ahead.
Oh, question. So the way I'm reading this is shall not be expelled from the school except in the case. Does that saying that they have to expel when they pose a threat to danger, and should that shall maybe be a may instead? Would that not still accomplish the same thing, but make it clear that they don't have to expel the student when they're a danger to themselves, but have the option to do so?
I think that's a good catch.
Say but may instead of except.
I had the same.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great catch.
Yeah, that's good.
I feel like I just helped write a bill. That was a good moment.
Awesome. Awesome.
Anything else, Senator Chinden, that you'd like to weigh in on at this point, since you're nailing it, you got it. And at Senator Persick, is there anything you're holding back from us that you're waiting for Senator Chinden to mention? Okay.
Senator Campion,
Yes,
just
please,
on point of poses a threat of danger, and how is that defined? And who determines what the threat is?
Well, in the draft, it's left to the school. Danger could be, it could be physical danger, it could be emotional harm as well, I suppose, but that is left to the school to determine in this language.
Okay. Does that feel okay, Senator Hooker?
Yeah, I think it seems broad, but that's okay. I guess if it's up to the school, they determine whether or not it's necessary.
Is the word harm better?
So I'm sorry.
Is the word harm?
Harm.
Yeah, poses a threat of harm.
Yeah.
Danger is something that may not have yet
happened.
Yeah, well, harm is the same way, but I think harm is pretty clear. You're going to do something to somebody.
We could say danger or harm.
Jim, you must have had a reason for putting danger in there.
I think it may have been used in the statute that we're amending here.
Okay.
So I think I did have a reason, but I'm not sure. Let me look that up. Yeah, so in the statute we're amending, subsection B says nothing contained in this section shall prevent a superintendent or principal from removing immediately from a school a student who poses a continuing danger to persons or property, or an ongoing threat of disrupting the academic process of the school. So danger was used earlier, so I picked up on that here, but you don't have to use it here.
I like harm. So that poses a threat of harm to self and others is what I know that judiciary uses quite a bit in some of the judicial language around, and we use it for around mental health and when people are involuntarily or voluntarily admitted for protective purposes. So that's the only reason I use that. We use that in healthcare and judiciary together. Well,
sense to me.
I don't care what we use here, but I do like the word harm.
That seems good.
But danger, the value of having danger is it does imply putting a bomb behind a wastebasket.
Mm-hmm. I just wondered if there was, some kind of definition of that.
Yeah.
And
Senator Chittenden also mentions, can we say danger or harm? I mean,
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that okay, everyone?
Covers everything.
Okay, let's do that.
Oh, I'm on a roll.
You're on a roll. Okay, I think we can take that down unless there's.
Oh, we have more to go here.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was a little ahead. Sorry.
That's fine. So we have section 7 right here. This is the only thing remaining, which is the referral of truancy to the state's attorney's office, state's attorneys. It says on before September 1 of this year, each school district shall report to the Agency of Education the number of cases referred by the district or its staff to a state's attorney for truancy under 2 sections of law, which I'll come back to. What mitigation techniques were used by the district to engage with families prior to each referral and the result of each referral. And then you have a report on before December 15th this year from the agency, which collates the reports from the school districts. The references here, 16 VSA 1127 allows referrals to the state's attorneys with truancy because there is a fine of, I think it's $1,000 against the parents for a truant student if it's ongoing truancy. So the referral there would be for actually a fine for the parents. First, we say 5309 is the Human Services Chapter, and that permits referrals from a school to the state's attorneys, really for at-risk assessments for the child. So if the child maybe needs to have another home or caregiver, that's what that would involve. So that's why those 2 sections are referenced here. And that's it.
So the state's attorney already has this information, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So this
Yeah.
is
Or this is information from the school district about what it's reported. Yeah.
so, okay. Questions? So I think it makes sense to sleep on this, try to put it on the calendar for a vote on Friday. I have a feeling it will go to approps, and possibly the mention of state's attorneys may mean it also swings by judiciary. I don't know. But for us to move things along works for me. But I also want to get it right. So let's all take a look at it tonight, and please be in touch with questions or concerns. And now we'll move it, try to move it on Friday when we also move possibly miscellaneous ed and literacy. Senator Perchlik, any concerns? No, you're okay. Senator Hooker, Senator Lyons, Senator Chinden. Okay. Thank you, Jim. You are the master at taking our ideas and doing something with them. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, committee, still sunny out down south. Hope everybody can get out. Thanks for everything, and look forward to being in touch.